Pam, I think it's safe to say that there are stages in life. There are times in life when we wake up one day and we don't really know who we are anymore or what the landscape is. I mean, we've had a couple episodes, one which comes to my mind just recently where something cracks something open in us. And I think there's also an element that can be true in the fact that there's a part of us sometimes that we come to meet face to face because of some things that have gone on in our life of our own doing, most likely, that it's like, I don't even know who I am anymore. I don't even know what this marriage is anymore, what family life is, what all, because circumstances just change, and some of those are our doing.
Some of them are, yeah.
And so this is kind of what we're talking about today, particularly in the construct of infidelity, and how it doesn't just break trust, it also breaks the landscape of what we thought was.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're now faced with what is. And it's one of those that we talk about, and we've hinted at, and we've talked about over the years of the episodes here. But this one's from an email that came in from a wife that, let's just jump right in, that she says,
Sure.
I'm not even sure where to start. About a month ago, I discovered my husband has been having an emotional and a physical affair with someone he met through work. When I confronted him, he denied it at first and then admitted everything. I still don't know if I have the full story. We have kids. We've been married for 14 years. We're both believers and have been active in our church for most of our marriage. We talked with our pastor and his wife and some close friends who've been supportive. We're looking for a counselor, but we haven't found one yet. Our pastor has encouraged us to pray together more, which I know is probably right, but honestly, I can barely look at my husband right now, let alone pray with him. The anger is just overwhelming sometimes. Other times, I just feel completely numb. He says he wants to save the marriage. He's been remorseful and has answered my questions, but I find myself going over everything constantly, trying to figure out what I missed, what was real, what wasn't. I'm exhausted from the obsessing, and I can't seem to stop. Everyone keeps telling me it'll take time, that we just need to rebuild trust, that if we do the work, we can come out stronger on the other side. And maybe that's true, but I keep coming back to this. How do I ever feel safe again with someone who's capable of this? How do I stop waiting for the other shoe to drop? How do I trust him again when I'm not even sure I trust myself anymore, my own judgment, my own instincts that completely failed me? I don't really know what I'm exactly asking. I just know I'm desperate and I don't want to lose my marriage, but I also don't know who I'm married to anymore. There's a lot of feeling in this.
Well, there's a lot of things packed in there. Heartbreaking, number one, but she doesn't trust herself. She doesn't know who she's married to. She wants to hold on to it. But
I'm not sure what this is anymore.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so it's a total rebuild, like something's been demolished and now you got to clean up all the debris.
Mm-hmm.
They imploded the building. You got to clean up the debris, and then where do you go from there?
And that's where we'll try to navigate through. So today's episode is really just going to be focused on her, because she's the one that's emailed in, mm-hmm. and she's the one that often, in the experience I've had of working with couples in this kind of a situation over the decades I've been doing this job, they're the one, the betrayed or resolute spouse is the way that we would refer to them. They are often the ones that would reach out for help first, because they have the impact on them, and they also don't know what to do with the landscape anymore, because you get knee-jerk reactions from everyone around you.
Sure.
Right? And so first off, everything she's describing that's going on with her is absolutely real. Mm-hmm. There's a reeling, there's a shock, there's this obsessive thing that I can't stop the thoughts, I can't stop the fears, I can't stop the despairs. There's pain, and it's completely real. The questions are completely real. The doubt is completely real, because a lot of times we try to minimize that. Like, oh, well, even like the pastor, it sounds like you need to just pray more, which isn't wrong, but it's not addressing what's going on underneath this too. Because there is the nuance of, yes, that's really good to do couple things together, but what do I do when I don't want to be a couple in that particular moment.
Well, yeah, I mean,
right?
pray on your own.
Absolutely.
This has to be part of it.
But the one thing that's important to realize is everything that's going on with her and all of the feelings she's got oftentimes then generate into questions, and we want them answered by him, and they will not be fully answered by him. Okay. And that's one of the conditions we got to at least start talking about on this dynamic of how this unfolds.
And when you say they will not be fully answered by him, meaning that all of her issues aren't about him, and there's things that he's not capable of.
The ground that has changed under her feet cannot be stabilized fully by him.
Yeah.
She has to stabilize it herself too.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have to separate it out into realizing what's happening to her is her nervous system doing exactly what nervous systems do. There is a threat that has been experienced and felt, and now it jumps into hypervigilance to try to eliminate that threat. And that threat can't be eliminated by him. Can't be fully eliminated by her either. Because she's even pointed at it of, I'm not even sure what's real anymore. I don't even know who I'm married to anymore. That's the new landscape. And so it's an element of no amount of him answering questions or transparency or vigilance or will soothe that internal state that she's got going on right now. It can be something that's an ally that points towards trying to help soothe that. But he can't soothe it all, because what's happened is some things have been cracked open in her of, how do I handle me here? I don't even know who I am in some ways now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, again, it's a heartbreaking story, but when someone's in this situation and they're obsessing over things, like the ground seems to be breaking open everywhere, earthquakes, everything, the walls are shaking, and you keep obsessing over it, what's that next step? What do you actually do? Because you're telling someone to just rebuild trust. How do I do that? And is that even the right thing to say?
Yeah. And so there's an arc to this, because if I get clients that come in right after initial discovery or disclosure, there is a different runway needed for the shock and the settling of that before you start actually talking about what do we do with this. She's talking about it was a month ago it was found, and that's still pretty early.
Yeah, it is.
In the situation, because I would imagine what they've done is they maybe have had a spike of some closeness, because that's a common occurrence where it's like, okay, that's honest. It's brutal, but there's some honesty there, and we feel close to each other because there's honesty. But at the same time, on that coin, the other side of it is, okay, if this is honest, what's everything else been up to this point? And so we start second guessing and doubting and not sure about everything. We'll put the whole thing under the microscope, when that's an overreaction too. It's like, I don't know if I can believe anything. I mean, 14-year marriage, this has been going on for the short term. It sounds like, there's no details to talk about how long this thing was, but most affairs are shorter termed in general. And so it's not like year 2, there was all kinds of lying and deception and everything going on in their marriage. That was still built on a lot of real of what was in that moment. And so our brains start to obsess over things. And then one of the truisms to realize is, I can't think my way to feeling safe, right? It's not just a rational thing, because you're talking about two different systems operating, right? Our thinking, trying to solve the logical detective, how could this have happened? What's going on? And then our feelings that are associated with that, they don't communicate the same language. And so her trying to realize, what do I need to do about this? Because what you'll hear from girlfriends, family members, people you might reach out to or hear about it, is a lot of times people project on them what's going on with the person, not right. Like, she'll hear thoughts from people that are friends are like, that's about their friend, not her. Like, you should go right now. You should, we all are good at giving advice. From their own
experience, maybe they
or their own fears.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so understanding that those kinds of big picture questions, stay or go, how do we rebuild trust? What does life look like in the future together? What could we, is this salvageable? All that. Those are some, in some instances, big picture questions. Those are answered in time. They're not answered right now.
Okay.
At face value, at least. And so this is where she needs to get better at what is it that's hers. You kind of alluded to this when you could pray by yourself. If you got times where you're trying to follow the pastor's advice of maybe you should pray together more. Okay. That's sound advice in some ways, but there's also times I've heard couples and even some friends that are like, they have a ritual of they pray every night. And there's sometimes where they are in a huge dust up with each other and she would lead the charge. Hey, let's pray. And he's like, I'm glad to sit here while you pray. I am not in a state to pray with you right now today. I'm hurt. I'm frustrated. I'm scared, whatever it might be. But when she needs to do on the shorter, small scale is find some things that are hers, her own prayer life, go on walks, conversations with good friends that are supportive of her and the potential of what could be, not just blind allies of, girl, you got to protect yourself, and just constantly having a thread that's anti what she's saying she wants.
Sure.
Too, because that's where the nuance comes into play. A journal can be incredibly beneficial in these moments of just offloading some of the fears, some of the feelings you've got. Just try to articulate what are they, and that's yours. And this is where you have the ability to start to separate out what is my life still. What are the aspects of mine that the ground isn't as shaken, because he doesn't have control over that. He's not able to determine on a nightly basis, I'm going to go for a walk and I'm going to go do that. And
if she's questioning, I don't even know myself anymore. I don't trust myself anymore. Boy, it'd be really nice to get grounded in those areas to be able to trust yourself.
Right. Because while you're out doing these things for herself, it's about focusing on what's going on with me, not what is he doing or what has he not told me, or because that's all trying to make sense of something outside of myself that can't be made sense of.
That one she ultimately has no control over.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's realizing when she can find something that's for her, she starts to solidify a little bit of ground under her, which then allows her to orient towards the rest of the picture more solidly, more congruently, and more of the wording sounds kind of weird as I'm thinking it through, and more kind of a force to be reckoned with in this marriage of like, hey, there's some things that need to be addressed in this deal, right? And some of them are mine possibly, but some of them are yours, dude. And it's kind of like, I'm not going to just act like nothing happened. And I'm not going to act like I know the whole story, but I've got to learn how to live within uncertainty and insecurity, because that's what life on life terms actually requires us.
Well, truly, we want to be secure, but no matter what the situation, we live in a world where there's fear and insecurity around us.
And so here's a couple of things that kind of come to my mind, Pam, because this is one of the things that a lot of times it's hard to not just live. This is where you play a good role in our episodes of, it's hard to not just live in the theory of here's kind of how to look at this.
Okay.
There needs to be some tangible, okay, what are the patterns going on as they have shifted from what they used to be in the marriage to what's going on now with this new data point that's out there that has shaken everything.
Okay.
Right. And so these are some of the questions that I would usually try to inquire on with clients, on just understanding where are you now on the other side of this disclosure and discovery. And so one of them is like, okay, what is her interaction patterns with him like on a regular basis this last month? What's your pattern been with him?
So not the old ones, but whatever's happening now.
What are you doing now?
Post.
Because sometimes couples will just develop our evenings are a lot more quiet and subdued together, or they're a constant grilling of what's gone on, or it's you better show me your phone and I want to see all your emails. And I just want to know the patterns. What do they look like? Because that's where we start to get tangible. Is this really helping you or harming you both, right? Is she asking a series of questions? Is she bombarding him with things, right when he walks in the door, because nobody likes to be under surveillance for a long period of time. Nobody does. And I realize some of it's a reactionary and understandable of what else do I not know? And and it's like, but that's set on this basis of you need to prove this to me rather than what else does he need to show of what he's capable of in a really bad way that she needs to now orient towards how do I settle myself with somebody I don't know who they are now?
Well, sure. And I'm sure that's one you get friends of, well, when the trust word can be that what people throw out there to rationalize now high levels of, what's the word? When you're surveillance, I guess, on people, which.
Well, there is merit to some radical transparency at the start.
Yeah.
On his part, and even to a degree on her part, even though she's got nothing to prove, she's not shown she's capable of doing something to that degree. But there is an element of, okay, I'm an open book. Here you go. Because that shows an orientation towards I'm really aware of who I am now as the one that did the betraying.
Yeah.
Or I'm just trying to not get caught. And there's a difference in that. And sometimes how I orient towards this as the person that maybe did the betraying really has dramatic impact on what's going on in the future. Mm. But regardless of what he does or doesn't do, she still needs to realize what's hers to deal with in this dynamic. And so what's truly, what does it look like? Can they talk about other things? They've got kids. Can they function as co-parents? Can they do house together? Can they do parenting and managing that world together? I mean, school's starting now here in America. So can they be parents and go to meet the teacher night and those kinds of things? And it's not cold and distant. It's, is there a normalcy to it? Some of the tactical, practical ones on, is she eating? Is she sleeping? Is she active?
Yeah. Take care of yourself still. Right. You have to that's going to help you with everything else. If you're taking care of those basic, it's easy when you get in these high anxiety times of life to just not eat. I'm not hungry. Food doesn't matter to me right now. There's other people that's where they would go is food, but some people.
Well, it definitely, when our body is in a threat stance, our digestive processes slow down.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just the thought process of sleep, eat, movement, all those things help your body function, help your brain function to deal with all of these things. And they're also
hers.
There you go.
It's a way that she has complete say over that.
Yeah.
Of like, you know what? I'm going to go have dinner with some girlfriends tonight. I'm going to go hang out with them. And obviously we can be overreactionary with that and go to too far of an extreme. But there's an element of what am I doing that's mine? And then a couple of others that are really vital on the dynamic of are they sleeping in the same bed? That's a data point worth understanding. And there's no right or wrong answer here.
You just want the data point.
Right. Because it tells you, how are you guys handling this? What are you doing? Have you gone to your own corners? Because if you have, what are your touch points? Mm-hmm. If you're in the same bed, okay, are you acting like everything's normal? Or is there an element of you can still face what's right in front of both of you? Is she still changing in front of him or not? Does she close the door now to the bathroom if she's going to shower? This is a common one.
Yeah.
Nope, you've lost access to see me now.
Yeah.
That's a very common one. Are they still having sex? What's interesting about this one is sometimes the opposite goes true of they're having more sex than they ever have.
Really? I never would have thought that.
Because there's a reaction of, sometimes we can feel more intimate and connected. And sometimes it's a fear of, I got to make sure this never happens again. And so I'm all of a sudden now aroused all the time. And it's not completely rational, but it's a reaction of, how do I protect what's mine?
Wow. Okay.
Right. And so there is an element of just biological components that go on in this. I've heard from lots of couples that this has been the case. And so it's like they don't really want to get rid of that, but they want to get rid of the meaning behind the motivation.
Okay.
Because it's not like real intimate sex, it's just sex. And so those are aspects that are worth understanding as I look at how am I living in this past month? And what does it say? Is it in line with who I want to be? Because sometimes there can be an element of, no, I haven't moved out of the bed because I'm afraid. I haven't stopped having sex because I'm afraid if I don't have sex with him, then he's going to go out and do it again. And well, that's a reality anyway, as a possibility.
Well, it is a reality anyway. And from what you're saying there, because I'm afraid, well, going back to her point of not necessarily trusting herself or who she is in that scenario, those are all ways. It's not that the way I would see this is if I've stopped having sex, or if I am having sex, if I've stopped letting him see me change, these are all, you're having so many conversations through this, I would think. And here's why you do or do not get access to this anymore. And if just your comment there of people that ramp up the sex because I feel like I've got to do this so it won't happen again. Well, that feels to me like you're still totally losing control of your own.
I'm trying to control something that I can't completely control, because I can want to have sex with somebody, sure, and choose it, fine. But just my meaning underneath it is what matters, and that's what these questions.
If I'm just doing it because I think it'll keep them from straying.
Right. Well, but it's also the whole concept of the meanings of this all matter, because there can be an element of, I can weaponize now your access to seeing my body. Or I can say, you know what? I'm really hurt and not sure what's going on anymore. And so therefore I'm changing in the closet for the short term or even the long term. And there's a difference on those meanings, because one is I'm weaponizing, I'm hurting you like you hurt me. It's like, hang on. That's where we get into the nuance of his choices usually are not about how can I hurt my wife. They're about him. He's okay with the collateral damage he just caused, because most of us that have ever had a betrayal know full well there's going to be an impact from that when it is discovered, and yet you do it anyway.
And then the flip side of it being, I don't want my body to be seen by someone who doesn't treat me
exactly.
Like
and that's a different stance of, you know what, there is respect in this of like, I'm hurt, and wait a second, I'm not going to just be tossed around from this. And so I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this for a bit. And here's what I'm doing for the short term.
Yeah. For now, I'm respecting my body, and I get to see it. You don't.
But that's a different orienting towards it, because it's her choice within the landscape, not a choice trying to control the landscape. And there's the differences. And so it's because that's also the same kind of concept when it goes to the concept of trust. Because one of the main things we'll talk about in here is, how do I ever trust him again?
Yeah.
Right. And so it's the problem with that question is it's actually the wrong question, because it hands the solution to him. Because inherent in that wording is, you need to act right, buddy, which isn't wrong.
Well, it's a simultaneous thing, right? Yeah.
But trust, anytime I hear you need to earn trust, there's part of me that just kind of recoils at that. Because in actuality, the way I think of this is, if I really want to build something that's solid and within life on life terms dynamics, I have to learn how to handle and hold on to myself better to determine a level of somebody's trustworthiness, not where they act in ways that earn it to get it. It's like, it's both. Like, I need to be able to recognize, who am I in relationship with? And what level of trustworthiness are they operating according to? Because that's also a me, not just them. Because he could come home and completely, do all the checklists. Because this is one of the things I've heard a bunch too, is there's checklists that come with earning this back. Okay. I even heard a couple come in one time that with another counselor they were with, they created a no affair contract. And it's like, wait, isn't that what the marriage was?
Yeah, I thought
when you said I do, that kind of covered
exactly.
It. But it's an element of, when they put this together, a lot of times this is about how do you soothe the lowest common denominator, which is the fear of the betrayed spouse most of the time.
Okay.
And it's like, that's not wrong, but there's also about they need to raise their own operating level to really face what is, to create something even better. Because going back to what you had is not the solution.
Well, I don't think it, how do I trust someone again? I mean, you say it's the wrong question. It feels to me like it's just not the only question.
Well, exactly.
I mean, that has to be there.
She even alluded to it that she's onto the right track of, I don't even know how to trust myself anymore.
Well, it's got to be.
That's
so
where you start.
It just sounds like those two questions, both of those questions have to be there.
Yes, but I think that trusting myself has to supersede trusting him, because if I don't get to where I'm able to confidently say what's going on with me, say a doubt, say an insecurity, say whatever, knowing I can't get complete assurance from your answer, but I'm willing to say it still. That's the same kind of thing that is the same mechanism of, I say a thought that I think is funny, you don't laugh. Now all of a sudden I'm in this whole redefining of self of, but am I really funny or not? That's the same exact mechanism. Because if you laugh, then I feel really, really funny. But if you don't, it's like, I'm not sure who I am anymore. Well, that's what I have to fall back on of, no, I know who I am. That was just context. That was, and I can make sense of it rather than overreact to it. This is just heightened 100 times in this dynamic on she's looking for assurances when she's not even sure if she can trust herself. She can trust her own judgment, because what takes over as a mechanism in here a lot of times is fear leads the way rather than intuition.
Yeah.
Because one of the questions I'll get asked a lot is, how do I know this won't happen again? And it's like, well, you don't. Because everybody's proven what they've already put their cards on the table of, here's who I am. Here's what I'm capable of. Here's the links I can go to hide something. But my intuition will pick it up. My fear will burn things down trying to pick it up. Does that make sense? Because it's the one that becomes the investigative, constant badgering, constant nagging, constant assurance needing, constant validating, all of that, rather than, no, I'll know. If there's something going on, I'll know. I'll figure it out. It will become known, right? I mean, because it was discovered in this email.
This was, yeah.
So something happened. And so it's realizing that what she needs to recognize is, how is she settling herself down within the landscape of what's going on to really address what's going on? Because it's not he needs to make up for it, quote unquote. It's more, who am I with? And who am I in the context of who I'm with? That's how we create something different. That's the Esther Perel statement of the marriage they have is over.
Yeah,
they have a chance to build a new one together.
You still have to expect them to make some changes.
Absolutely.
I mean, absolutely an expectation of that.
But those are his to decide, not because she's making me. If you want something completely, fundamentally different, it takes both people getting their feet under them and becoming the people they want to be for themselves and for their choice of what they've made as a marriage.
Yeah, absolutely. Do I want to stay in if he's not choosing to want to stay in and make those changes? Yeah, it's got to be both and.
Mm-hmm. It is. And so it's looking at it as, if you're going to try to heal from this, that it's not a moment that she just decides to trust. It's the things as it's starting to point towards the direction. And you can go back to the questions we asked earlier of, are they talking? Well, okay. Oftentimes a marker of a change in this is they can talk about something hard without near the emotion attached to it. Still matters. It's still deep and meaningful. And there's still emotion associated with it. It's just we're not emoting as much. That changes things. We're actually able to hear about what the answers are, about what the dynamic is, about where somebody really is.
So what does she do with him while she's trying to figure this out, right? They're in the same house, parenting, doing all the things, and she can't just put him on hold while she's trying to figure herself out.
Mm-hmm.
So, what does that look like when you're trying to be in the same house? I'm trying to figure out myself
Okay.
when I've been hurt by you.
Mm-hmm.
How do I just
She's able
walk
to
away?
handle herself in the midst of a regressed time where she's hurt, she's doubting, she's fearful. He's going to come home one day or come in the room and see, oh, he'll pick up on
Tough day.
what's going on.
Yep.
And a lot of times what will happen is the betrayer takes it personal, like, I thought we were done with this. When are you going to get over this? And they start attacking it and putting it right back on her. And instead it's, he can do whatever he does, but she does better at, no, this is real for me. I don't need your assurance that this is real for me.
If he reacts like that, that's telling
That's
me
data
something.
points, right?
That's a data point.
It's all great data points. And that's all it is just data.
But it doesn't bode too well.
No, it does not. But what bodes well for her is she doesn't need to overreact to the fact that he's reacting to that. She can see it as, no, my hurt is legit. It's real. Because again, one of the things that matters, and we've done an episode way back in the archive of trust versus hurt, and those are two separate things. Because you can rebuild a better marriage and a better pattern with each other, and there's still hurt you have to work through. And the reality is the hurt she has to work through is hers to work through. He can't do it for her.
True.
And there's a separate there. It's like grieving. Like I lost my mom right after Christmas. My grieving of my mother is different than your grieving of my mother.
Yeah.
Because she plays a different role in my life than she did yours. And I could take it personal as, you're not as impacted by her loss as I am, rather than, well, no, you're not, because it's a different relationship. And that's the same dynamic at play of realizing her development of herself doesn't need confirmation from him. She'll actually get pushback actually at times where he'll take it personal when it's like, that's good data point to realize I'm not attacking you with this. I'm just telling you where I am. And I realize you can't soothe this for me either. That's actually a huge moment for her of, I'm hurt and I'm going to go for a walk and try to pray about it and deal with it. And then maybe we can have an evening.
Yeah.
That's actually a big move, because what that does is that sets a foundation of, I'm not waiting for you to make up for this for me. I'm building a better me, and I'm going to see if you're going to be alongside building a better you. Because if you're not, that'll come true. And so it also starts recognizing that this whole process, this is one of the key components we need to say to everybody that's listening to this, is this process is not linear. Our healing from these kinds of things is not a linear path. It is the stock market.
Up and down. And up and down.
We will gain some ground. We will lose some ground. And sometimes even the bottom can fall out of it. This is where you get the trickle disclosures. Right? I thought I knew it all, and now here's another data point that comes out. And so it feels like we lost everything, when in reality, no, I did drop, but I didn't stay dropped as long. That's because I've changed. And maybe I'm less contingent on I need reaction from you, because there's a part of my brain probably going, it's not shocking I didn't know it all. You've been lying to me for a while. Why am I shocked that that hasn't changed?
Well, then the bigger picture of what all do you actually need to know?
Exactly.
Right? Because at some point it's just, I don't know.
Right. But to kind of pivot this to end it, it really is starting to understand, how am I more aware for her of the part of myself that catastrophizes, that maybe can't stop obsessing, that needs certainty right now? Because it's not that those things don't make sense. It's also making sense of the fact that those parts of us can wreak havoc too. And so that's on me to deal with and face better. Not that I'd need to shelve them at all, but I need to realize that's a part of me that has impact on a system that's not helping what it is I'm saying I want. So I need to face that, confront that part of me better, and hold on to myself better, so that I can also deal with the person I'm with better, who's also shown their hand of what they're capable of. Right. And so I don't want to think of this as a hierarchy.
Sure.
But the reality is we both can be terrorists in our relationship. We both can be overreactive in our relationship. We both can be insecure in our relationship. And this is about, how do I develop a better self without losing a heart for what it is I want? Because one of the key components of holding on to my heart is my heart's going to still get hurt.
So at what point does she know when maybe she is figuring herself out, right? When she is.
We usually are able
herself
to see that retrospectively. It's not like all of a sudden in a moment I'm like, look at me while the conversation's going on.
There's got to be some moments along the way.
There are, but it's typically, you and I have been down this path in our marriage. And so there's the times that stood out to me the most of, whoa, look at who I am, were the times I'm driving down I-75 going to work at that time and looking back at a day and going, dude, I kind of like me on how I handled that. There's still a lot of work to do. Yeah. But that's not the same dude. And so we see these things backwards. We connect dots backwards, not in real time usually.
Yeah.
And so this is one of those where she also would know, because let's go down this path that you kind of described and was ours of, you know what, access to seeing my body is gone for a while. And so I'm not going to change out in front of you anymore. And so she'll know she's in a different moment when she's in the closet changing and there's a thought of, I might be all right to walk out there to go get what I need to get without covering up. That's a growth moment of, I'm actually seeing who I am in this context and I'm willing to take that risk. Versus, nope, I'm hidden, I'm hiding, I'm shy, I'm all those. And that's the brain working to create a different possibility of what can be. Because that's what this whole thing is about, is now you're in the uncharted waters of what can be together. And this is where I'll confirm what was mentioned earlier by some of the people that they've talked to before, is you can come out of this stronger with a stronger relationship. And the stronger relationship is all about the people are stronger, which creates the stronger relationship.
Yeah.
That's what we earn.
Yeah.
Is we earn a better self and relationship on the other side of this.
Yeah.
And so if you heard your story in this email today, if there's something that's close, or as far as the obsessiveness, the sinking, the uncertainties, the questions, that's what we want to hear from you. Not what happened necessarily, but what's the hardest thing that's hurting you right now? What's the hardest thing that's getting in your way now as you're dealing with whatever condition is in your life and in your marriage? That's the email we want to know. So feedback at sexymarriageradio.com, or feel free to call us in 214-702-9565. So however you took a little bit of time out to spend with us today, thanks. We'll see you next time.